Hello, everyone. This is Jim Grzanzio from the Oracle Groundbreakers team. We're back for some more interviews here today. I'm here with Andrea Kennel. Andrea is a PhD in computer science from Switzerland, and she is talking to, she's going to do a session this week on, well, we'll talk about her session in a second, but she's talking to the Oracle Groundbreakers OGYatra, which is a major event that's taking place over the course of 3 weeks, and we're actually just slightly past halfway through, which is good because I'm really getting tired here. This is really a breakneck conference. Anyway, Andrea, welcome to the program.
Oh,
Nice to meet you. I specifically have been reaching out to new people at this conference, hoping to get some interviews with some new faces and new technologists that I haven't met before. So I'm really glad to meet you for the first time. And since we are just meeting for the first time, if you wouldn't mind, maybe give us a little bit of just a little overview of who you are and what you do.
okay. Yeah, you already said. My name is Andrea Kennel. I'm from Switzerland. I'm working in IT and especially with Oracle now for, let's say, decades. And my main topic actually is data warehousing with Oracle databases. But beside that, I also developing an app for writing journals on construction sites. And there, of course, we also need data and a database. That's why I will talk about this topic, how a database can work on an app, especially if it has to work offline. Because construction sites sometimes are not on a place where you have internet connection, so the app also has to work offline. This is a special thing.
Yeah, it's actually interesting you bring that up because I used to be in the construction business in New York, and that was 30 years ago. And there was no online, offline apps or anything like that on construction sites back then. There was no internet. Well, there was an internet, but it was obviously not what it is now. And there were no computers on the construction sites. There's nothing, right? You had paper and hammers and nails and plans, and very interesting. I haven't really actually been involved with construction since then. So talk about some of the issues that would actually be involved here and with being able to use an app to access the database offline. You say here, actually, as opposed so because of NoSQL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The problem you're told about hammer, it's not about the hammer. You don't use the iPhone as a hammer, but you use it instead of paper. So if you have to document the things on a construction site, you can do it with your smartphone. You also can take pictures. And as soon as you're online again, this data is written to the server. And the same data you can access from your web application. So you have the data on the server and you can access this data or download this data, not only access, to your smartphone. And on the smartphone, we don't have Oracle yet. But there's a NoSQL database on the smartphone that you can use. And my talk is about how this database, it's indexed DB, how this database works, how you can use it.
Okay, so couple of things. First, actually, yeah, let's just start about, is this for developers or for DBAs or some combination of both?
The talk is more for developers.
Okay.
Because it's not an Oracle database, and it's an index database, and you don't need a DB or a smartphone, but it's special things about developing, how to create this database and how to read and write into the database.
Okay. So what types of things, so you mentioned taking photographs, I would imagine measurements and things like this. Who would be using this on site? Would it be the engineers, the architects? Who would be using it on site?
Oh, I don't know the English word for it. The guy who is responsible that everything works well on the construction site.
Okay. So like supervisor manager, sort of a
Exactly,
person.
supervisor
Right.
manager. Yes.
Okay. I could have really used this or something like it to collect all the data because I used to walk around with just mountains of paper, right?
Exactly.
Plans
Exactly.
and schematics and big,
Yeah.
long sheets of things. Interesting. Okay. So why is it possible here you say thanks to NoSQL?
Yeah, the databases you can have on a smartphone are normally NoSQL databases.
Okay.
Or let's say there is a SQL lit, but it's not supported that well anymore. So you have to use an NoSQL database, the IndexedDB, where you directly store the JSON data that you get from the REST interface.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay. So you mentioned that this is a talk primarily for developers. Have you spoken to this particular community before, like at Sangam or OGYatra before?
Uh,
This particular this Indian community.
Yeah, no, I normally talk more in German and in the German-speaking areas. That means German in Switzerland. So I went to many conferences in Europe until now,
Okay.
but more talking about SQL and Oracle than
Okay.
about not about NoSQL. It's my first talk about the NoSQL topic.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, the India community is very interesting. It's very big.
Hmm.
And I've been to India many times, and for events like this, and they're very engaging, very interested, and very interesting as well. It's a lot of talented people. Maybe next year or the year after, since you're going to be speaking here, I'm sure this is going to be a very welcome talk for them. I'm sure they'll invite you to be physically present sometime next year or the year after. Um,
That is
so you
great.
can experience it live.
Yeah.
So what other types of conferences you mentioned in your conferences in Germany or in Switzerland that you ordinarily go to? I guess mostly in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally I travel around in Europe for conferences. Yes, but actually that's the good thing now this year that a lot of conferences are remote, so we can attend remote. Yesterday I traveled from India to Switzerland within an hour. That means I attended a session in the India conference,
Right.
and 1 hour later there was a session in Switzerland in the Swiss community.
I have very little experience in Europe. I've only been actually a few times, but whenever I travel within Europe, it's always so surprising to me how easy it is to get around compared because I've done most of my travel in Asia where you're on long haul flights for an enormous amount of time.
Mhm.
You can see so many different countries, so many different developer communities in Europe in 2 or 3 hours, an hour sometimes. I mean, it's just incredible. You're in a whole different country, different language, different culture, different food. Everything is different, and you just got on an airplane for an hour. Here in Asia, an hour, you're not even left the country yet. I mean, you still have to go over. You have to go. Still have to go over 12 hours of ocean, and so I was hoping to do because I did a little bit of I guess I did some projects in Europe earlier in the year. I was hoping to do a lot more this year in 2020 in Europe, right? Because it would
You
be
do
all
it
new to
virtually
me.
now.
Who knew, right? So, okay, it also says here that in your bio, I'm just have some notes here that you do some teaching. What kinds of things? What kinds of things that you? What sorts of subjects do you actually teach on, lecture on?
Um, yeah, it's mainly databases and project management.
Oh, project
Those
management.
are the
Okay.
two topics, and it's interesting. I'm teaching at the University of Applied Science in Book, and there the students work in projects already in the first year. So they work in projects, and they have normally no experience in project management nor databases. So there I'm a coach for project management, and the normal lecture I gave is about databases. And of course, we work with Oracle there.
Right. So project management, I didn't read anything here about project management. Where did that come from?
Project management, yeah, if you're in many projects, I'm working with Oracle now, I think for about 20 years. And then you're often in projects, and so you do both. Or a lot of things. You do design, database design, you do implementation, but you also do project management.
It's
So that's
interest.
why I do both.
It's interesting because all the people I've been interviewing for this job, I've done almost 250 interviews in the last 4 years for this job. There's exactly two people who have uttered that term, project management, and you're one of them. Yeah, no, because I
Okay.
interview, it's really interesting to me because I'm a project manager, right? And so I'm not an
Mhm.
engineer. I interview engineers, developers, people who are writing code or managing systems of one flavor or another. But however, when I observe engineers working, because I used to work in the Solaris engineering organization at Sun, when I observe them working, some of them are phenomenal project managers, just
Mhm.
because they are working on highly scalable systems that need a lot of meticulous attention, and they manage their own tasks very well. Now, they might not necessarily be interested in project management as a discipline, to manage a team or, whatever, but they still have to manage their own projects well enough to be able to get through a day with all the interruptions and to be able to not compromise, their code, right? And I've observed this over the years, but they don't talk about it. And I've always wondered why. So, what are some of the key things that you talk about with project management?
Sorry, I didn't get the
So,
question. Right.
what are some of the key issues to think about in terms of project management?
Key issues?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe it's interesting. I think it's helpful. You're telling about the engineers that can do project management. I think it's normally this way around. And it's good that you also know about engineering and what has to be done, how has it to be done, how long does things take, where is the uncertainty, where do you know, okay, you have to do it like that and it's going to take 2 weeks, or where are the points where you say, oh, we first have to figure out and to find out. And if you're an engineer, you know all these things. And for project management, it's exactly important to know all these things
Right.
to manage a project, to know when you just need time or where you have to investigate to eliminate risks. So I think the engineers normally are really good project manager, but sometimes they're not allowed to because there's just any project manager who knows nothing about engineering, and then you're in problems.
Right, right. I know. I mean, it's a fine line. I mean, if you're a really good engineer and they promote you to be a project manager, is
Not
maybe
always good.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I've also had experiences with engineers who really wanted to be managers, and
Uh-huh.
they used their ability to focus and their engineering skills to sort of retool to focus on the discipline of management.
Exactly.
And so it's an area of focus. It's just where you put your attention. Very interesting. Okay, so offline app thanks to NoSQL. Interesting topic, especially for me since I have a little history there, but in the old system. And you're talking on Wednesday, next Wednesday. Um,
Yes.
and this is for Oracle Groundbreakers India Yatra. All right, Andrea, thank you very much for coming by. It's been a pleasure talking to you and meeting you for the first time. And hopefully we meet again live somewhere.
Somewhere in the world, yes. Hopefully.
Great. Thanks a lot. Bye bye now.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.